because we would be here all day and afternoon if I shared all of her accolades. As director of the Oral History Research Center at UNLV for the past 22 years, Claytee has led 13 projects designed to collect the history of Las Vegas. Collecting the stories and memories of the Black community has inspired her writing, research, and speaking engagements. She has a master's degree from UNLV and additional graduate work toward a PhD at the College of William and Mary. Claytee serves on the boards of the Las Vegas Clark County Library, BlackPass.com, Women of Diversity, the Mob Museum, and of course, as an advisory member of the Obodo Collective. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Claytee White.
So usually I'm not nervous, but today I am. I am because this is such an important day for this community. And I'm also nervous because my encyclopedia is here. So when I wanted to find out about grocery stores and markets and all of these businesses in the neighborhood, I called John Edmond. And John told me all of this history. It is so much that I'm not going to be able to cover it all. So you're going to have to forgive me because I'm not going to read everything that he told me. So do you know that there was a time when this West Side community flourished? I mean flourished. There were nightclubs on every corner, stretching from 1942 to the 1980s. They were on Jackson, D, E, F, Monroe, and Owens. Barber shops and beauty shops and restaurants were numerous. Churches numbered from at least 52, sometimes to over 100. And the West Side was not always a food desert. It has been for the last couple of years, just before Obodo, but at one time it was flourishing with markets. Now, we have to look back well before Mario's, before the vertical farm down the street, and before this illustrious Obodo urban farm. Before that, what do I mean by flourishing? These are not in chronological order, but I'm going to tell you about some of the markets that were right around us where we are sitting today. Not all of them had fruits and vegetables, not all of them, but a lot of them did. Back in the 1940s, there was a place called the Ice House. Before people had refrigeration, you would go out and buy a huge block of ice. Remember? A huge block. It came from the Ice House. The Ice House was located at D and Monroe, one block away from where we are today. So the Ice House was a small adobe building, no fruits and vegetables, but it was a beginning. Then we had Bravo. Now most of you talk about that when I interview you. You call it the Mexican market. It was the Mexican store is what you called it. It was at Morgan and D. The Mexican store sold canned goods and cold cuts and cheeses, a little place with about 2,000 square feet of space. Early settlers of the West Side talk about this place all the time. And then we had Rancho Market at the corner of Van Buren. Today it's a church building at that corner. One time, Monroe Williams worked in that store. A lot of you know Monroe. He was the first of 2 African-American firefighters. They had fresh produce, they had a butcher shop for meats, and we don't know the name of the owners, but we know that all of the personnel that was ever seen in the store were all Black. It was operating beginning in the 1950s. We had Vegas Village. beginning in the early 1960s, located at Main and Four Master. There's a homeless shelter on that corner today. I think it's one of the shade tree shelters. Spotted Eagle told me that he and his friends would go biking from the reservation all the way to Sunrise Mountain, and that they would stop at Vegas Village first and get refreshments to take with them because they were going to be out all day. So it was like an early Walmart in a way. And the other early Walmart type store was a store called Wonder World. Now, Wonder World was a little bit away from the neighborhood, but people went there all the time. It was at Decatur and Vegas Drive. On a recent interview, a gentleman told me that that's where his family got all the school clothes for the children. And then we had places like Mrs. Johnson's. It was on D Street near where Annie's is today. You could get fruit and vegetables, but Jackie Brantley remembers that they had wonderful candies, and they were in glass containers and was so always appealing, and kids wanted the candy, not the fruits and vegetables. Then we had Thrower's Market, Bell's, it's right there at H and Owens, across the street from the Wealthy Place. At one time, Thrower's Market had a butcher shop. Some of you know that place as Jimmy's Market and other names over the years. There was a Thrifty Mart, Bonanza and Rancho. It was kind of like a dollar store today, very popular back in the 50s and 60s when it opened. And then most of you will remember the biggest store in the area at the time, starting in the 1970s, was Big 8. Remember Big 8? Well, John Edmond told me a little story about Big 8 that I have to share with you. Big 8 was very, very popular. Lots of people from the community because it was big. It had produce and meats and everything. So everybody wanted to shop there. But there were always loiterers outside of the store. And so John Edmond, when he and his friends purchased all of that shopping center, they wanted to get rid of the loiterers because they did a survey, wanted to know why most of the people in the community weren't shopping there. The survey revealed that people in the neighborhood didn't want to go there because the loiterers hanging around the store were begging, and it was just unattractive and unappealing. So they started a lawsuit to get rid of the loiterers, but the store owner was against the lawsuit, wanted the loiterers to stay there because they would beg for enough money, go into the store and buy certain things, and would stay around all day just being a nuisance. But John Edmond and his group won because they had the survey, and they could prove that the store could earn more money if they got rid of the loiterers and allowed the neighborhood to come in and shop like they wanted to, that it would be more prosperous. So they won that lawsuit. When I came here in 1992, there was a Vons supermarket. Remember the Vons supermarket that we had in the community? Later on, it went out of business, and then it became some other supermarkets, and then Carter's, and you ran Carter's out of the community. Thank you for that. So in the 1980s, unfortunately, now we have integration in full force, and we have crack cocaine. While families remained in the area in places like Berkeley Square, Cadillac Arms, Highland Square, and that area that's bound by Owens and Washington, J&N, all of those families stayed in the community, but the businesses left. They could not survive. Ironically, most cities with Black communities, like the West Side, across the country, experience this same phenomenon. Think about it. All across the country, crack cocaine. And Black businesses went out of businesses in great numbers. So this became a barren neighborhood when it comes to businesses. And then Erica Vitale-Lazar had a vision and began to learn the West Side, dreaming about a garden. She met people who supported that vision, and now we are standing here with Cheyenne Kyle and Tamika Henry and Tiffany May and Tiffany Tyler, who also caught the vision. So we now have a ground that has blossomed. This place shows the glory of gardening. Hand in the dirt, head in the sun, heart with nature as it beats to the rhythm of the West Side.
Woo!